Okay, my beautiful friends, this is it. We are here. It is today a very big Federal Reserve announcement, a conclusion of their two-day meeting, and the market is on edge right now, just waiting to hear what's going to come out of the mouth of Fed Chair Yellowstone. It's going to be an epic day in my view, and like I said yesterday, if this market doesn't like what it hears and it decides to fall, that would be a buying opportunity in my view, because the Federal Reserve has not even begun to inflate along with the other central banks of the world. Let's back up a moment here. Right now, stock futures are flat. I explained to you from the middle of last week that this market would be in more or less of a holding pattern until today, and that's exactly what has happened. The market wants again and again to be reassured that the Fed is going to buy it all. And all this has done is create the biggest distortions that have ever been seen, ever. Across the spectrum of asset classes, again, like we've never had in history. And the Fed is going to continue doing this. Let me explain this to you a little more clearly. We are supposedly, according to our politicians and the mainstream media, financials, we're in an economic boom right now. Okay. Meanwhile, we haven't had a single piece, not one, of good economic news in as far back as you can remember, as I can remember. But the Federal Reserve is engaged in emergency monetary policy, keeping rates suppressed, buying mortgage-backed securities. This is full-on quantitative easing. Look at it for yourself. Okay, that's what this is. And this is considered emergency monetary policy. And it's not going to stop. So if we really are in some kind of an economic boom right now, why would the Fed need to be engaged in emergency monetary policy? Unless, of course, there is a much deeper and darker agenda going on here. Let me explain this to you. You cannot, and we cannot get out of this. Okay, the Fed cannot continue to buy everything and our economy is just all of a sudden just going to turn around. We can't stimulate out of it. And I'll tell you something else too. This kicking up of inflation, and it's pretty unbelievable. I mean, we've never seen this before. Inflation rising at its fastest pace ever on record. All right. Once you open up the inflationary floodgates, which is what has happened now, you got all of these extra bills, trillions of them, existing in whatever form they've been created. Either they've been printed or they've been added to a digital screen. That's more than likely the case here. All of these bills start chasing the same amount of goods. And once that happens, again, it reaches this inevitable conclusion. So this dog shit temporary narrative or transitory narrative is just that. It's dog shit, and it's, this whole environment is so twisted. All it's doing is exacerbating an underlying problem. Again, it is fostering a wealth transfer on a scale that people can't even believe. Again, this is grand theft. It's a crime. It's a crime in progress where the middle class is getting robbed blind now since the meltdown of 2008, since the Fed decided to get into the market and manage it by artificially suppressing rates. It has destroyed the middle class, created a feudal system, which we really have today, and it's about to get much, much worse. The Fed is not going to stop. So today, we're going to hear again from the Fed. And the Fed is going to tell everyone that, our economy is doing fantastic, but guess what? We're going to maintain emergency monetary policy for as far as the eye can see. And it depends on the wording here. Understand, all of this is scripted. When you watch later on and you see Fed Chair Powell, Yellowstone, take questions, 90% of those questions are submitted to him in advance. Maybe a few get through the screening process, because again, he can't be made to look like an imbecile. This is the leader of the world, okay? Fed Chair Powell is the world leader, okay? The Fed is the government. They control it all. We have nothing anymore, people. We have no real government here that represents the people. We have no representatives. We have a fake system, and nothing is what it seems to be, and you know that. It's the Fed. They control the monetary policy. They control our medium of exchange. They don't want you in cryptocurrencies. They don't want you in gold. They don't want you in silver. They want you in their product, which is the dollar. The dollar. That's what they want you in. Period. The end. So you can understand the situation here. So anyway, watch what he does today. When he's asked a question, he's going to look down first, and he's going to see what the scripted answer is on his pad or whatever he has below him. I don't know if it's an iPad or whatever the hell it is. But he's going to be reading scripted answers to most of the questions. Now, what you're not going to hear today, you're not going to hear a single person ask this man, Mr. Powell, since we are in an economic boom, can you please tell us why the Federal Reserve is maintaining emergency monetary policy? If in fact, Mr. Powell, we are experiencing inflation rising at its fastest pace in history, why then is the Federal Reserve issuing debt through one door and buying it through another door? Because that mechanism is massively inflationary. You will not hear these things. Again, the public can't know. They're not allowed to know. If the housing market is doing what it's doing right now, people paying thousands of dollars over the listing price for a home, why then, Mr. Powell, is the Federal Reserve buying $40 billion of mortgage-backed securities, providing artificial demand? You're not going to hear any of this stuff. You can't know about it. The people cannot know about it. So it's got to be covered up. Okay, again, this whole thing is a scheme. It's the biggest freaking freak show ever in the history of the world, and all of you know that. Anyway, that's where we stand here, people. Stock market right now is poised for a slightly lower open. Crude oil is over $72 a barrel, on its way much higher. You know that. 10-year yield stable, dollar slightly weaker. That's where we stand in the grand scheme of things, people. But again, what comes out of the mouth today of Powell is going to move this market one way or the other. And if it dips, if it sells off, to me, this is a major buying opportunity. With regard to anything right now, you want to be out of the dollar. That's pretty much what you want in this environment where the Fed is going to continue to inflate on a massive scale. And you already know that, in concert with other central banks around the world. They're all doing the same things at the same time. That should tell you something. They are working towards finishing what they started a long time ago at the creation of the inception of central banking, and that is to one day be the lender and buyer of last resort. And how they got here is by shutting down the global economy. They needed to introduce a mechanism here, I call it the scamdemic, to shut down the global economy so they can finally fulfill their end game. What organization on the earth has that kind of power? It's the central banks, who are the rulers of the world at this point. And it's about to get monumentally worse, people. A whole new set of rules, a new paradigm. You know that. And we are in it. All right. With that said, that's where we stand. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this day plays out, let me tell you. All right. That's it. This guy here loves you live. Please share the video. I'll see you at the conclusion of this at the end of the day, and it's going to be just freaking lovely.